Most people think you make money in real estate when you sell. Wrong. You make money when you buy and then you force the value to go higher. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I can actually tell you that there are only 3 ways how you can profit. Think about it. Every business works the same way. You buy low, you add value, and then you sell high. If you're in retail, you buy something for 10 and you sell it for 20. If you run a service business, you pay people for their time and then you charge more for the end product. Real estate is no different. It works the exact same way. What's different? It's the value adding piece in the middle. There are only 3 ways how you can do it. You buy below market, you improve smartly, or you ride the market. These are the 3 levers I'm going to introduce to you today. Let me break them down. Okay, so the first page here in my PowerPoint deck is the basic formula. I just introduced that to you. So you buy low, add value, and sell high. Not going to go deeper into that. But what you need to understand is that this is the bread and butter of entrepreneurship. So many people, when they talk about real estate investing, to them, it's all about riding the market. So they buy an asset and they wait at home thinking it's passive income and it's supposed to go up basically every year. That to me is the same as speculation. Investing and entrepreneurship is about being able to influence the outcome. Today I'm going to teach you how you can do that. That's why I'm here. That's why my channel exists, so that I can pass these learnings on to you so that you can actually make money and make your life a little easier. Why are we not talking about selling? Why did I mention in my intro that it's not about selling? Because for the most part, real estate is a commodity. With the exception of those custom built homes, those millions of dollars, those properties that cost tens of millions. I mean, that's a completely different ballgame. But for the most part, we're talking about rental units, we're talking about single family homes or condos, whatever we're talking about, it's a very visible commodity. There are appraisers who do that work for you. So that's why we focus on buying low, improving smartly, and being able to be in the right locations to tap into the market potential. Okay. So that we get that under the way, let's move on. So now the 3 levers that I mentioned. So first one, buy to add value. So think of it this way. Take a $100 bill. So your job is to buy that $100 bill for 70. Get discount right off the bat. How do I do that? You understand value, time, ease, and risk. These are the things I talk about in more detail in my first video on this channel. If you're going to look at my real estate money models, 7 ways to find opportunities and 5 ways to convert those opportunities into real deals. So that's the thing. Okay, but anyhow, so what I do as far as equity goes, so my minimum requirements are 20% for rentals. So when I close, I've been able to buy below market value so that I have minimum 20% equity, or if I have a flip, meaning a buy and sell opportunity, it's 30% minus repairs. So that's that. So the idea is to have that equity in your books, in your back pocket by the time you close. Okay. So on the next page, a lot of numbers, a lot of line items. So let's try to simplify it. But the key message here is that this is what it looks like in real life. When you buy right, you're able to create equity or make money. So 2 examples. The one on the left is a single family buy and sell. It's a fix and flip, so to say. I bought that deal for $285. I sold it for $410. If you deduct all the costs, I was left with $44,000 in profit in 90 days. Not bad. Not my best deal, but okay. Then I would say even more impressive is the buy and hold on the right. So I bought a 4-plex that was used as a single family home, but I noticed that it was zoned as a 4-plex. So I had an opportunity to return it back to its original form. And that's where the biggest opportunity was. The rehab was a little more expensive than I thought, maybe 50K or so, but still I was able to create 142 in equity in just roughly in 6 months out of thin air, basically. By putting money into this, and I used equity from other deals, so there was no money out of my pocket. So this was literally equity created from thin air in 6 months, and that was 142,000 for me to tap into maybe later or enjoy or whatever. But that's the thing. That's the power of buying right using 2 examples. Let's move on. So lever number 2, and this is the beefiest section of today's video. So there are 8 ways how you can actually improve smartly. And many people always think about rehab only, but that's the simplest way. There are 3 ways there. Then we're going to talk about repositioning the property and the most complex, redeveloping it. So let's get right into it. First one, cosmetic repairs. So I'm going to divide this section into three parts. There's cosmetic repairs, functional repairs, and then smart add-ons. Cosmetic repair is something that really taps into the buyer's heart. This is the emotional part. Bathrooms and kitchens sell properties. Those are the things that people pay attention. Okay? Three sections or three things that I focus on when I look at cosmetic repairs. Kitchens and bathrooms, like I said. Then you have the paint and flooring. That's the modern, fresh look of the property. And then a very important part is the curb appeal. What do I do there? Landscaping, fencing, and painting. So those are the things that people see first before they even go into the property. So many people overspend on kitchens and bathrooms, but they neglect the visual, the curb appeal. That's really super important. So the idea here is that many people, they don't think rationally in the beginning. So you remove the objections, you tap into their emotional side. But what about the rational side? That's where the functional repairs come into play. Think of it this way. Why do you do this? Why do you do functional repairs? You make them so that you widen your buyer pool. What do you mean by that? Many buyers who don't have that much own money or equity, in other words, let's say FHA or VA buyers, they need banks, they need loans, and even the conventional buyers who have more equity to put in. But there might be a contingency attached to their loan that the property has to pass a physical inspection. So it has to be safe. It cannot have any leaky roofs, or the foundation has to be in top-notch order. It doesn't matter if you have the most expensive kitchen or the nicest imported Italian tile in your bathrooms. If the slab is cracked or if the foundation is all crooked, it will not pass the inspection and the buyer pool is limited. So then it's a wholesale property, not a retail property. That's why these functional repairs, the logical side, the rational side of the brain, so to say, is super important. Then the smart add-ons under rehab still. These, I usually focus on lighting, smart, nice LED lighting, some super cool latest technology thermostats, heating and cooling, like advanced features there, or extra storage space. But be careful here. So the idea is not to overspend. Many people overspend, but look for those low cost, high value items. That's where you really differentiate your property from the rest of the pack when the appraiser comes in and looks at comparable properties side by side. Okay. That was the rehab part. Now repositioning. Conversions is first. So the pictures you see here are on the left, it's an old attic from a historic building where we had basically just empty space in the attic. What did we do? We added bedrooms, bathrooms, and just lounge areas. So the picture on the right obviously represents the finished product. The idea here is that be super careful with basements and attics. Why? They are very expensive. Time is an issue, complexity is an issue. Because your project, if you're looking at a massive development project or maybe a buy and sell, whatever you do, existing dwelling, these are inside the existing structure. So the reposition, I forgot to mention, by the way, the idea here with this section is that this is what you do with the existing dwelling. So you're not adding, you're not pushing the walls out, or you're not adding a different structure. These two strategies are about the existing structure. So yeah, basement or attic. So be careful with those because the cost, complexity, and timing elements are really, really tricky sometimes. But what I do is that I have done all of these, and I just don't like the basements. I don't like the attics that much. But my biggest, I would say, opportunity in the past has been my ability to turn those single-family homes into duplexes, triplexes, and so forth, so that I could have maybe a separate unit that I can rent out and so forth. But conversion is a real good opportunity. Just like I said, be careful with the complexity of the property. Then the second one, change of use, really my favorite. So I've done plenty office to residential, retail to mixed use, and all of those, and even recreational to residential type projects. And the idea here is that the price per square footage, the retail price per square footage for residential is a lot higher than what it is for let's say office, retail, or recreational use. That's why if we find opportunities where we can buy something really cheap and then understand that the running cost, but here's the tricky part, because HOA multipliers, depending on your legislation, depending on where you operate, but make sure that you understand the HOA and the maintenance cost structure really well. Here in Finland, for instance, I'm telling you, in many of these co-op buildings, what happens is that you have a so-called monthly maintenance fee, the so-called HOA. Okay? There is a multiplier. If you have an office space, it could be 1.5 or even 2 times higher than the similar monthly HOA for equally sized property that's residential or unit in the same building. So if I pay $100 a month for my 500 square foot residential tiny apartment, it could be double that for the similar office space. So that's why we need to be really careful. I've been able to find opportunities where there is no multiplier. The pictures here, this was an office space in the beginning and they turned it into a residential unit, a nice top floor unit, and it was a good case. So, but here the key really is to understand that you have to look at cost, and of course understanding the conversion cost as well in this case. So making sure that there's no surprises. But market analysis, understanding where the biggest value is in what parts of town plays a huge role. So then, redevelop. So there are 3 strategies, and these are the more complex ones under improve. Rezoning is one. So the picture looks a little messy here, but this is an example of a vacation property that I purchased. It's a waterfront property that has an existing old, call it summer house, vacation house. And I saw an opportunity when it comes to the zoning laws and requirements in that particular area. So the zoning allows me to build an additional structure there that would be for year-round use. It's only 15 minutes from downtown, so people can easily buy this property, demo the existing buildings, tear them down, and build a nice-sized house there for year-round use. I bought this as a vacation home, and I immediately applied for a special permit. I understood the zoning requirements. I studied the zoning maps. I had good relationships with the city, with the building department. I was able to get that passed. So this is an example of a more advanced strategy where, by understanding the market, the zoning requirements, and specific rules and regulations in your area, where you can tap into these really huge potentials. This is a potential 200K upside for me by just basically doing no renovations, by just doing paperwork type of improvements, and those exist. You just need to understand, dig deeper, have the right relationships, and so forth. But there have been office to apartments, vacation to year round, and like I said, single family lots to multifamily. So the existing base is there. There's plenty of properties that could have this potential if you just do your homework. So, but city council is one thing. Study their meeting minutes. What are their upcoming plans? What's going to happen in the future, so that you can then tap into that and make sure that you're in the best position to negotiate your deal, because competition is very limited. That's the key. These are usually sometimes properties that are not even listed. So if you have the relationships, you can go and contact these people directly by cold calling, knocking on doors, driving for dollars, and all of these strategies that I have explained in my first video that I already mentioned once. So the next one under redevelop is a tear down and rebuild. The pictures here, again, tell more than 1,000 words. This is one of my projects. So what you see in the left is an office building / industrial building from the 70s. It was taken down, and what you see here is a brand new apartment building in its place. The same exact thing. It was a Class A location. We understood the potential. Every single other building around it was basically brand new. This was the only ugly duckling in the area. And we understood that by buying it, first we cornered every single unit, because this was basically split into all kinds of different spaces. So me and my partner, we ended up cornering this place first. So when we controlled the maturity of it, we convinced the other people to sell to us as well at a discount, because the condition of the existing dwelling was so bad. And then after the fact came the heavy lifting. So we had to convince the city council, we took that risk, get it rezoned from office to residential. And at the same time, we were able to increase the buildable square footage on the lot. And as a result, the value went higher. So that's really the thing here. So you need to understand the price of land, what parts of town, where does it make sense? But this usually makes a lot of sense when the value of land exceeds the value of the existing building and its tear down cost. That's really key. So the value of the land is so high that the old building is basically it's not worth anything anymore. So that's the thing. So understand the value, understand the opportunity, and then this is a more advanced strategy because you need to be able to talk to architects, talk to local politicians. Not a nice game always in real estate, but anyhow, you got to do it. But then if you can convince the people, and if the zoning allows that, or if you're able to get a new law passed, not a law, but if you're able to convince the council to approve a specific clause for this particular property or lot, then it makes a lot of sense. But it works best in Class A locations, like I said. So next one, add square footage under redevelop as well. The picture here is a drawing. It's from a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that I had. This was from San Diego County. What we did was that if you see on the left, there's an extra bedroom and a bathroom. So by converting this 2-1 house, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, I was able to, by putting $35K into its rehab, I was able to increase the value of the property by $80,000. So this is the exact same thing. So you buy something low and then you force the value to go up by improving it smartly. And in this case, we added square footage. So we pushed the existing structure out. So it was just basically extending the footprint, making it bigger, of course, applying for permits, dealing with the city. And then you need to understand, you have to have an engineer, you have to have an architect that they draw the plans for you. You have to get the permit approved by the city, talk to the neighbors if they have any complaints and all of that. And then obviously have a crew in place who does that work for you. But here again, understand the cost of construction, understand the value, the retail value of additional bedrooms and bathrooms, understanding the location. What do people value? Proximity to school. What are the nearby properties like? Are they mostly 3-2s, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses, and you're the only one with the 2-1? You have a huge potential there because your values is not limited by the other properties. They are more, the other ones are more valuable than you, the surrounding property. So that's why this is a really great opportunity for you. So vertical additions, it could be sometimes that you have a 4-story apartment building and you're able to convince the ownership that you add a 5th floor. That's a possibility. I haven't done any of those. Adding structures, done plenty. But like I said, here the idea is to understand the values in the neighborhood and then be able to work with all these stakeholders, the gatekeepers that I mentioned. Those were the first 2 levers. So buying below market value and improving smartly. Now comes the lever number 3, riding the market. So time plus location appreciation. Okay, let's break both of those down. Starting with timing. So first of all, you need to understand real estate. So real estate has always been a boom and bust market. That means that affordability is key. So if we look at like Southern California affordability, so over time it's been going up and down like this. So you can predict it's not easy nowadays because of all the money printing and inflation and budget deficits that the countries run. So if you compare the real estate values to Fed balance sheet, for instance, that's one metric, which I pay attention to. You could argue that real estate has actually not gone that much more expensive, even though the first-time buyers might disagree with me because they can't afford a house anymore. But if you look at long-term affordability, you have a way to predict somewhat what the values are going to be down the road. But what I do is that I mostly focus on the right locations. I look at population growth, I look at employment growth, and I look at proximity to key other locations within the city. So how close to services, shops, jobs, water, and mass transportation I am with the property. So if I'm in a Class A location, and if my timing is right, if I understand the affordability curve, so that I don't buy at the peak, and if time is on my side, I want to hold on to it. And if I can buy a property, if this is a rental for me, that it cash flows, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to go higher in terms of value going forward, I'm going to pull the trigger on that. But it has to be in Class A location, and so that I can get Class A tenants. Otherwise, it does not make sense for me. Section 8 is a completely different game. Every country has its own Section 8, meaning people who get a lot of housing assistance. That's a completely different ballgame. Some people make a lot of money with that. I have not been in that game myself, so I can't really talk about it that much. I once bought a property that had a Section 8 tenant, and that was a smooth transaction for me to, quote unquote, get rid of them or incentivize them to leave. but I focus on Class A locations, Class A properties, Class A tenants, and that's how I can influence, again, my outcome. So remember, entrepreneurship, real estate investing is about understanding all these three different levers. It's not about guessing. You're not speculating what's going to happen, because you have a say in the final outcome. You are in control. That's the whole thing. We are in control. Okay, so enough about that. What's left? Summary page. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. 3 ways. Let's quickly summarize. Buy below market, improve. That was the rehab, reposition, or redevelop part, and then right the market. If you like what you see and hear, you don't have to like me. I'm just kidding. Subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. This is my new channel. I have divided my content into 2 different buckets. My real estate channel, I just started a couple of weeks ago, and I would really highly appreciate if you could subscribe. That would mean a lot to me, because I'm in the process of building my channel, hoping I can help more people down the road. And I plan on providing value, hopefully. If you have any improvement suggestions to me, so how I can do it better in the future, I'm all ears. I appreciate all your attention, all the comments, anything now and in the future. And again, I'll talk to you again in the next video. Thank you.